A 6-year-old girl went missing from outside her house in South Africa, but the truth behind her disappearance shocked the entire nation. Her mother was accused of something unthinkable, handing her over to a traditional healer, otherwise known as a sangoma, in exchange for money. In court, witnesses described packed bags, secret meetings, and claims that the young girl was taken for her light eyes and fair skin. This case is very real and it's very heartbreaking, and you won't believe what came out during this trial. This is the story of Joshlin Smith. This article is by the BBC and it reads: Missing South African girl was wanted for her eyes and skin. A young South African girl who disappeared last year, aged 6, was allegedly sought by a traditional healer for her eyes and fair complexion, a court heard. This among the allegations that have emerged at the ongoing trial of Joshlin Smith's mother, Kelly Smith, who has been accused of orchestrating her kidnapping. Miss Smith, her boyfriend Jacquin Apollos, and their friend Stevino van Rijn have pleaded not guilty to charges of human trafficking and kidnapping. Jocelyn's disappearance in February 2024 from outside her home in Saldanha Bay near Cape Town sent shockwaves across South Africa, and despite a highly publicized search for her, she is yet to be found. Now, just for context, I am a South African who's been living abroad for more than 10 years. And throughout my experience abroad, I can tell you that it is very difficult to keep track of the current affairs back home. However, it was near impossible to miss this story. It not only sent shockwaves through South Africa, but I believe through the world as well. Now, unfortunately, South Africa is becoming a hotspot for human trafficking, particularly of girls and women. And with that being said, South Africa's spotlight on glamorizing traditional healers, otherwise known as sangomas, is on the rise. And this story intertwines these two worlds, and we see the devastation that it has left on this 6-year-old girl who is yet to be found. Just to put it into perspective, this is an article from about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and the trial has been concluded. But it doesn't escape me that within this time of sangomas being spotlighted in South Africa and the glamorization of witchcraft taking place in our country, it doesn't escape me that her mother has been sentenced very close to the time that one of South Africa's biggest personalities in the world of sangomas has passed away. Now, I'm just saying this because to me, the timing is very, very peculiar, and it just goes hand in hand with how dark and twisted this world of witchcraft as well as human trafficking is. And with this happening as a nation, we cannot afford to tell ourselves that we need to keep glamorizing certain things when it goes hand in hand with human trafficking and kidnapping. And unfortunately, probably the passing of many, many, many children in our continent. Let's continue reading. Miss Smith initially said that Joshlin, who has a fair complexion and blue-green eyes, had gone missing after she left her in Mr. Apollos' care, Mr. Apollos being her boyfriend, the mother's boyfriend. Prosecutors later accused her of having sold, delivered, and exchanged the 6-year-old and lied about her disappearance. The trial, which is now in its third week, is being held at a community center in Saldanha. And during the first week of the trial, the court heard details about the day Joshlin went missing, including that Miss Smith only alerted the police more than 6 hours after she had first noticed that the young girl had disappeared. The court also heard that she appeared calm during the frantic search and seemed more concerned about her boyfriend's whereabouts than the missing child. Now, there is so much wrong pertaining to what we just read about the mother, the type of mother that this young girl had. Someone who spent 6 hours. I don't know what she was doing in those 6 hours, but it took her 6 hours to report the child missing, number one, after leaving the child in the care of her boyfriend. And when the police arrive, she is more concerned with where her boyfriend is. There's a lot to be said about this woman who happens to be a mother. And it is a reality. It's a very, very harsh reality that people who are unfortunately placed in a situation where they don't have a mother who's deemed fit or socially acceptable are not really believed. It's harder for society to believe that there are mothers like this than to believe that the child is actually going through what they're going through with an unfit maternal figure. Now, we are living in a time where, and unfortunately, there's nothing new under the sun. I'm pretty sure this took place in history in its own way, in its own context. But we're currently living in a time where children are not only in situations where they are facing witchcraft attack and manipulation by their parental figures or family members, but they're also facing the threat of being sold to witchcraft practitioners in exchange for money so that their body parts can be used to inflict witchcraft on others. More shocking claims emerged in the second week. A local pastor said that as far back as 2023, he had heard Miss Smith, a mother of three, talk of selling her children for 20,000 Rand, a sum which is roughly about $1,100 or 850 euros. Though she said she was willing to accept a lower figure of 275 USD. Now, what shocks me, what stands out to me, is that this woman attended church. Besides the fact that she was willing to sell her children that she birthed for 275 US dollars. That is absolutely astounding. Jocelyn's teacher then alleged in court that Miss Smith had told her during the search that her daughter was already on a ship inside a container and they were on their way to West Africa. These revelations paled in comparison to the explosive details made by Laurentia Lombard, a friend and neighbor of Miss Smith, who turned state witness. She took the stand last Thursday and over 3 days detailed the events in the lead up to Jocelyn's disappearance that involved a traditional healer known in South Africa as a sangoma. So, in different regions of the world, we all have our own unique terms to describe people who are practitioners of witchcraft. And in South Africa, we term it sangoma. Now, during this uprising of the awareness being created about sangomas, there's been many details shared about what it means to be a sangoma behind the scene. And among the details shared is that not all sangomas or not all traditional healers engage in human sacrifice. However, it is clear that there are sangomas who do this. If not, then children with certain features would not be in demand. Their body parts would not be in demand, and there wouldn't be so much trafficking taking place within our continent for the purpose of witchcraft. Now, if we look at the Google definition of a sangoma, it says a sangoma is a traditional healer, diviner, and spiritual leader within Bantu communities, particularly in southern Africa. They are highly respected and play various roles, including healing, divination, and guiding rituals, often drawing on ancestral spirits and traditional medicine. Now, through a biblical lens, we know that this falls under witchcraft. Let's take a look at what one of the key state witnesses has to say.
She made a confession, and that confession will form part of the testimony, and it will form part of the evidence which will be led during the testimony.
Lombard's chilling testimony casts Smith as a central figure in Joshlin's disappearance. She told the court that the little girl's mother confided in her moments after the transaction was completed.
Kelly het vir my gesê, Rens, ek het nou 'n aangevang. Ek het nou my kind verkoop aan 'n Sangoma en ek het vir haar gevra, hoekom doen sy dit? Jong Rens, ek het geld nodig gehad en ek kry swaar. Boeta, hier is die geld wat die Sangoma gegee het. Hoeveel geld is dit? En Kelly sê, aan Boeta, dis 'n 20,000 rand.
The plan, Lombard testified, was in full swing on Monday morning, 19th of February 2024. Kelly left for work, but not before giving strict instructions about Joshlin's fate.
Ek kom daar by Kelly se huis. Rikwan, Joshlin, Kelly, Boeta, Stefano was daar geweest bij de huis die ochtend. En verder aan, voor Kelly weer toe gaan, noem Kelly aan Boeta, moet jy vir Joshlin regel, want die mense kom 2:00 vir Joshlin kom haal. Sy gaan dan vir Joshlin iets inpak, soos 'n broek en 'n skepe, 'n sweater. En ek sien my eie oë, sy pak dit in 'n koelebek, 'n swart koelebek in. En voor sy loop, sê sy vir Boeta, Boeta, moenie vergeet nie, asseblief. 2:00, ek gaan kom en vir Joshlin kom haal.
As promised, the long-awaited 2:00 arrived. Kelly, carrying a black cooler bag, was met by the same woman who had arrived the day before in a white polo. Lombard, standing behind rocks at a distance, saw Joshlin for the last time.
Die vrou klim uit. Dit was weer groen geweest. Dit was 'n groen doekje op haar kop geweest. Dit was die spikkels op haar kop geweest. En dit was die bandjie wat op haar kop geweest het. En die dress was geweest op blik na shirts na kerk blouse geweest, maar dit is groen. En
Guys, what is it about white polos and kidnappings? Like, this is something I've noticed, that these cars are usually associated to these type of things.
En die vrou het nog gepraat, maak die vrou die deur oop en Kelly en Joshlin klim in die kar in. Sy vat die koelebek saam. En die vrou klim weer voor in die kar. En verder aan, daar ry die kar. Ek en Stefano en Boeta moet vir niemand sê nie, of vir die polisie mense sê vir niemand nie. Sy is die een wat gaan rapporteer by die polisiestasie dat haar kind vermis is.
Lombard also testified that Kelly then lied to authorities about the disappearance hours after the sale, when police came looking for the child at Lombard's house. Smith and Apollos continued their deception.
Well, there you have it. According to the witness, that is the confession, and that is what happened. It really disturbs me that they said after the sale, but that is exactly what happened. It's the truth. She was sold. These are the times that we are living in. Well, this case has actually been concluded recently. As I mentioned before, that they were sentenced to life. And the timing is very, very, very telling. They were sentenced to life about a week before one of South Africa's biggest TV personalities, who was known as a Sangoma, known for educating people on different topics of Sangomas, passed away. So I don't know. I just look at things, from a like a larger perspective and just try and connect these two events. What is God trying to tell us here? Should we really, as a nation, be giving humongous platforms to people engaged in witchcraft when we can see the direct results that has happened with people who are in this sort of trade for materials or ingredients to conduct their witchcraft with? And I don't think any Sangoma is going to go out there and say, yeah, you know what? I practice in human sacrifice. So as much as people might be educating us and we might feel like we're shining a spotlight and we're spreading awareness on this topic, I don't think anyone is going to sit there in front of these platforms and say, yeah, you know what? I'm one of the people who take part in these type of things. It's just something we should think about, but you let me know. What do you think? Should we be doing this as a nation? Should we be building these people up and glamorizing these type of practices? Anyway, let's continue reading just to conclude the story. On Thursday, 29th May 2025, Western Cape High Court Judge Nathan Erasmus handed down life sentences to 3 individuals found guilty of young Joshlin Smith's kidnapping. Those convicted include her mom, Kelly Smith, her mom's boyfriend, Jacqueline Butha, Apollos, and his associate, Stevino Van Rain. All 3 were sentenced to life imprisonment for their roles in the abduction of Joshlin, who was a grade 1 pupil at the time of her disappearance. You know, for as much as our justice system is in complete shambles, I must say that at least we as a nation have received justice for this. However, the child is still missing, and we can only speculate what her eventual fate was.
So yeah, a very sick, twisted, and disturbing case. And personally, I am a lover of justice. The Bible says in Amos chapter 5, verse 24, "But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream." And this is a story I brought to you, and I shared it from my perspective. But I want to hear your perspective. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about this trial? Do you think as a nation we should be heading in the direction of platforming Sangomas, knowing that we are also a nation who is plagued with the issue of kidnapping, human trafficking, particularly of women and children? Should we be platforming people who are connected through what we've experienced, through what we've seen, people who are connected to human trafficking for the sake of education and awareness? Because let's be honest, we're not always, as a nation, platforming these people because we want education and awareness. Let me know your thoughts in the comment, just to share a personal story from my childhood. I'm half black, half white. My dad's family is from England and my mother's family is from South Africa. And as a child, when I used to go home, or rather when I used to go and visit my mother's family in what we call the farms, which is just the countryside, my cousin, who is now late, who used to be someone who would look after me as a child when I visited the farms, she didn't allow me to leave the house and play outside because she told me, "Joanna, I can't let you go outside because you might get kidnapped and used for muti." So this is a reality. It's ongoing. I want to know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. My name is Joanna. I'm a child of God, a dreamer, and a believer, and I will see you next time.